This is another stream here on KindaFunny, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Twitch. Thank you for hanging out with us. And it's a big day, ladies and gentlemen.
Huge day.
It's finally happened. You have finished beta testing Immortality and have released it on the greatest platform known to man, the PlayStation 5. Sam Barlow, Manon, Gage, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you both for coming. Thanks for coming to hang out with us and, talk about and stream one of my favorite games, Immortality. Sam, I'm so excited to actually hang out with you. We've DM'd a lot, but we've never actually talked and hung out.
Yeah.
And so I know Blessing just did Games Daily with you. He really wore
It's so weird as well, because I've seen more of you guys through the screen, so there's that weird thing where you're like, I feel like I have hung out with Greg before, but I haven't.
My problem with you is that you do this thing on Twitter and Instagram where your avatar is like a shadow. So there was one time I came up to Lucy James and Tamor, I think, at the Game Awards, and they were talking to someone British. And I kept waiting. I'm like, is this Sam? And it wasn't Sam. I'm like, you mean nothing to me, other person. And I forgot who they were. That's how it's got to be.
That made them feel good.
Exactly. Yeah. How does it feel to finally be on PlayStation?
It's cool. It's cool, yeah, because when we originally launched, there were, a bunch of people who were like, oh, the audience for dark cinematic games has its home on PlayStation.
I don't know if you know that. That's the thing where, PlayStation is where the cultured gamer is. Xbox, just shooter. PC, bunch of perverts. All right, so it's one of those
We can't comment on that, but
I mean, perverts / culture, that's my intersection.
Yeah, okay,
so.
okay. I'm glad that it's right there.
We've got it all
right
covered.
There for you. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're finally on PlayStation. But the problem I have is that, of course, you guys hit us up and said, hey, we want to come through. We want to show the game. It's on PlayStation 5. I've been demanding a platinum trophy in it forever, which I will get, and I'm very excited about. You wanted to do Games Daily. Awesome. Mano, you've streamed this game a few times. You're a big-time streamer now, of course, on Twitch. Everybody should follow.
This has been the biggest,
every Monday,
biggest,
Wednesday,
craziest transformation.
I know. I don't even recognize
Manon
myself.
now plays more games than I do. I'll see Manon play a game and I'll be like, damn, I haven't played that one yet.
Chance of Sonar. I just played, and
you just
told
bonded
me
over Andy about that.
Yeah. You haven't played that one yet.
I haven't played that one. It
It's
sounds great.
Play Chance of Sonar.
That's what everybody says to me too.
It's so fucking good, and it's a French game, so I get it. It gets an extra bonus.
Now you're
for
just
me.
playing favorites.
French games are funny. They're like.
In what way?
What does that mean? Please go on the record. What do you mean about French games?
Well, like, so background, my first hardcore gaming machine was the Amstrad CPC, which was an 8-bit home computer in the UK. Like, in the UK, we didn't do consoles. You had a Spectrum. That was the punk rock one, right?
Sure.
There was the cheapest one. It was literally made of cardboard.
Yeah.
And then there was the Commodore 64. Which,
I remember Commodore 64.
Commodore 64 was if you were rich parents.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And it did nice music and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Amstrad CPC was made by Alan Sugar, who was our Donald Trump.
Okay.
Like The Apprentice started with Alan Sugar, and then they brought it over here. So Alan Sugar he's not as Trumpy as Trump, but he's in that world.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So he created all this. Was actually his fault for the original apprenticeship.
Okay.
But he made a home computer, the Amstrad CPC, and it wasn't as sexy as the Commodore.
Sure.
And it was not punk. Like, my parents bought it because they thought it was educational, right? It was, and it had word processing on it and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you were in the playground in the UK, most people had the Spectrum. We're handing out the Spectrum games. Cool kids are like, come around my house and you can see my Commodore 64. You can listen to some real music and there's some digitized speech or whatever. Amstrad, not cool. But two cool things about the Amstrad. One, the UK, all the cool UK gaming journalists started on Amstrad Action, which was the Amstrad magazine. It was a cool magazine. But number two, in France, the Amstrad.
I was like, I forgot it where we were.
I know. I'm just mesmerized.
Waiting for Gary Whitta to bust through the wall to talk about UK gaming.
The Amstrad was the big machine. So it was the cool machine and all the games on it. So if you were an Amstrad gamer starved of content, you could get French games, sneak them in. And the French games were always
perverted and
they
weird.
played terribly. Like the gameplay sucked.
Yeah.
But they were weird and cool. So like Captain Blood, there was like the Cocktail Vision games that were somewhat sexy or not sexy. Like Time Wars was a big one. Like all these weird kind of adventure gamey kind of games. Played awful.
Okay.
Looked beautiful because of that like tradition in France of like the arts and cinema and painting and stuff. And it's kind of still like that to this day, right? You think like, oh, yeah, I'm not gonna diss anyone, but like, but there is still that sense of them being slightly left field,
Those
slightly always gorgeous looking, always gorgeous looking. Very much still in love with that classic adventure game. It was always on the periphery.
I'm going to need to play a lot more games to even come up to your level.
But this
of
is
how
like
many-
historical stuff, Manon. This is
Well, I
like
like
going
it.
back
You're
to the
Historical,
brain.
yeah.
I don't, I think obviously the language divide, cultural divide, whatever, you talk about Western games and blah, blah, blah. I don't know a lot about French games, but you say that, and that's so interesting because, when I think of a French game developer, I think of Interior Night, who just did As Dusk Falls, a very adventure-like game, and then, of course, Quantic Dream, who, of course...
And you got like Plague Tale, that's French, right?
Yeah,
Similarly, looks gorgeous story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that whole
Blew
thing.
my mind. Look at that. This guy knows stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Huh? He made a
Walking
game. That's what I'm talking about.
encyclopedia.
About 20 minutes ago, before we got a history lesson, Manon, I was driving
Yeah.
with you. You've streamed this game before.
Yes.
However, the game is about watching clips of a movie and then like piecing it all together and stuff. It seems very hard to stream.
That's the question?
Yeah, is it as hard as I think
well,
it is to sit there and be like,
well,
you gotta, like, this is one of my favorite games of 2022,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, I remember being enraptured with the story and like looking for clues and clicking on the things and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's interesting because when it came out on Xbox, I was watching streamers on Twitch like actually play it. And it was really cool because it is kind of like you're watching someone watch a movie, but then you sort of begin to watch them try to solve a mystery, essentially.
Right.
And like that switch is really exciting to watch. I mean, when I streamed it with, I streamed it twice, once with Harletta Molin, who plays a character in this game, and then
Scary
also Ty Molbeck, who plays another character in this game. And we were kind of just having fun, like, putting together like our favorite scenes and following, like the narrative in Minsky with Ty. But yeah, it's an interesting one to stream. Yeah.
I like that
For sure.
exercise though, favorite scenes, because that's my favorite thing. You of course were here about a year ago. I was actually looking at
pretty much on the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. A year ago, you're here last January, obviously to hang out this for the first time. Thank you for putting up with us. And there we got into it so much of like what it was like making the game and doing the stuff, but like actually to have the reference material here, and of course have Sam here, exciting
Yeah.
stuff. So now, Sam.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably don't know this game, which is outrageous, but kind of funny. He's getting new fans each and
It's
every
the
day.
it's
All right.
even if you've made what's a big game like
Starfield.
Halo.
Starfield. You're
Right
there
there.
repping Starfield.
I'm Todd Howard. He's right there with me. You know
I
what
was
mean?
Xbox told me that was my most played game of last year though. Apparently.
Good job.
Yeah, I got quite deep in it, but yeah, like most of this planet doesn't know about Starfield.
Yeah, of
right.
course,
Like
of course,
there's just always a fact of life.
Right.
So you can always find new people.
Well, okay, so for somebody who's watching this for the first time, and again, maybe they're cultured, they only play stuff on PlayStation.
Yeah.
What is Immortality?
So let's not say interactive movie because that has connotations.
Sure.
Right, and I think those are the wrong connotations. So basically, the idea of Immortality is think of those horror movies where someone like goes to the library and they find like a bunch of old footage to like dig up. Like in It, they look through all the microfiche and stuff, and it's like, what happened? This
Blair
kid
Witch.
went missing. The Blair Witch idea of like going over all this old footage and looking through it to try and figure some stuff out. And in this case, the story is about this actress, Marissa Marcel, who was going to be a huge star. She only ever made 3 movies, and none of those movies came out, and she disappeared. So you're like this big mystery, like, okay, what the hell happened to Marissa Marcel? Why did these movies not come out? And so the game, you're kind of in the POV of being in an editing suite, having this movieola kind of interface. So you're looking through pieces of old footage, trying to figure out, A, what even are these movies, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on in this movie? And then B, or like, what's going on with the actors? What's going on here? What is the answer to this question? What happened to Marissa Marcel? And that's going to lead to a bunch of other questions.
Lots of questions.
Bunch of other questions. And really, like, I think the funny thing is, if you haven't played this and you're just like, oh, it's an interactive movie, I get what that means. It means go left, go right. It means choose this. Like, these are games conceived of by somebody, me, who's like obsessed with Nintendo games, obsessed with the idea of pure gameplay.
Yeah.
And when I think of this game, I'm like, the way that like a Mario game works, which is a game at its purest level about running and jumping, right? And the beauty of Nintendo is that's some of the most expressive, challenging, exploratory running and jumping, right? They make this game where you can sit down and express yourself through running and jumping. And then I think of like Zelda games, especially the most recent ones, which are these games that go, we're going to give you the freedom to do what the hell you want. It's going to drop you in this giant world, go and do whatever you want, and you're going to have fun.
Yeah.
You're going to figure some stuff out. And this is me applying those ideas to a story, to a film story, of going, we're going to drop you into the middle of this mystery. It's going to be hard initially because you're like, what the hell? And you're slowly going to put things together, slowly kind of come up with answers. And we're trying to, give you, like, how do you gamify watching a movie? Like, oh, well, you're in the editing booth. You can scrub the footage. You can rewind it, look at it. You're being expressive because you can choose at any point. I think I'm going to click on Marissa's face, and it's going to give you this match cut. This is like our core mechanic, where you essentially teleport through the story by clicking on objects. So I see Marissa, I click on Marissa. It will take me to another scene with Marissa. I see a rose, I click on the rose. Another scene with a rose. And so right out the gate, everyone that's playing gets a very different experience.
Right,
because it's their vibes, their curiosity. If you play it on the couch with a partner, perfect for the PlayStation, the connoisseurs, the cultured gamers.
Smart people,
sat on the couch with their partner or whatever. Because you're both going to be theorizing and shouting things out and being like,
no, click on that, click on that.
It's like, no, I want to click on this thing. Right?
Even playing it with like Ty and Harletta, it was so funny that they wanted to click different things necessarily. It was like, click that, no, click that, no, click this.
I was like, click on me.
Like,
Clicking on me.
there was a lot of
click
on me. And then I was like, no, click on me. So.
Snug Slacks in the chat says, I would like to thank Sam and Manon for creating the first game I have ever seen my wife obsessed with playing. She is not normally a gamer and could not put it down. We had a great time playing it together.
That's sweet.
That's the stories we hear.
I've heard that a lot, yeah.
Okay. Well, Kevin, let's jump in. We're gonna start it up, go. We'll keep stopping, we'll keep talking. Obviously, we're not gonna get all the way through it, thank goodness. This is out on PlayStation, you should go play it. If you haven't had it spoiled for you, go get it, go play it. I don't even think we'll get to probably some of the big stuff.
Should we do, are we going to do like director's commentary, like let's go deep on what we're seeing? Or are we like trying to give people an authentic experience?
Switch. I, of course, want you to play this in experience, but I've also talked about it for 2 years now. So I feel like you either know a lot about it or I don't think you need me to sell you on the game is great right now. Langley says, yes, please. Commentary says, fung time. Yeah, everybody wants to go deep. Okay.
But like so spoilers or like?
I say we should spoil.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because I hate spoilers, right? Like I'm a very David Lynchy guy who's like, I should never talk about anything.
Deep. Nobody's saying.
But go on, if you Google, it's all there now.
Yeah, of course.
Like it's out.
Well, I mean, remember we did a spoiler cast. Reb Valentine came on and she's like, actually, this is inspired by this story, and she knew everything. Like, oh my god.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
There was one thing because I watched that one.
Yeah.
You said something.
Yeah.
And you were talked down. Was Blessing on that as well?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Blessing and Rebecca both were like, shh, Greg. And you were like, oh, okay, I'll shh with this thing I'm pointing out. And I was watching it going, he's right. There's a big,
what was it? Or you can't say it yet?
I mean, it was a smallish thing. There's a scene where the character of Sophia playing the role of Antonia, remembering the names, cries. And you were like, oh, there's got to be more to this, right? And they were like, oh, no, she's just like stressed, whatever. And I'm like, no, that actually ties into a lot of the lore.
Job. Who are you calling?
Rebecca.
You're telling them. That's good.
I'm seeing her later today, so don't upset too much.
Hello?
Hey, Reb Valentine, it's Greg Miller from KindaFunny. You're live on the stream. How are you?
I had a feeling. I knew you were recording right now. Hello.
I just wanted you to know that Sam Barlow's here, and he says that I was right during the spoiler cast, and you talked me down, and you were wrong. So I just wanted to let you know that even though you have all these awards...
There is no official canon.
Even though you have all these awards and IGN's so cool, Reb, Greg still got it.
You want to know something, Greg?
No. It's my time, all right? It's my time. I don't want to know anything she has to say right now.
That's great.
My time.
Look what you've done, Sam.
Wow.
Created an immortality
You should
monster.
never give me anything. An award, a little bit, give me an inch? No, don't give me any of that. We're going to jump in and see what's up. Content warnings left and right. We skipped one earlier on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, content warning.
Trigger warning, everything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I appreciate, I would like, from the time the game has originally released to where it is now, like when we were like, oh, we got to stream, we got to be careful. Oh no, Twitch changed all the rules. Okay, good.
We're all good now. We're good to go.
As long as we're all sat in a jacuzzi, it's fine.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Deal, right?
Oh, I didn't bring my...
All right, so here we go.
So this is your Metroid moment, right?
Sure.
This is Samus has all the powers.
Yeah.
Is running around the space station, this is what we do. We drop in and we go, here's all the cool stuff.
Yeah. And you take it right away.
And then we take it away.
Look at this, the treasure trove. It's so fun to play this on a big screen.
Oh, I'm sure.
I just think it's like you get the sense of like the footage in a way that
And that was like
it
a
just
big,
looks so beautiful.
a
you
big
know?
part of Immortality was like having done like Her Story and Telling Lies. Like Her Story, very much people are like, I have to play this on a computer.
Sure, of course.
That's the vibe.
Yeah.
It was cool on phones as well. But I was like, oh, I want to get on the TV. I want to get in the living room.
Yeah.
And then when I have done with like Tribeca, having it on a cinema screen.
Oh,
I can only
amazing.
imagine.
Oh,
It's
it's
gotta
so
be
cool.
amazing, yeah.
It's amazing, yeah.
Do you feel, and we're talking obviously about Immortality on PlayStation 5 today. Been everywhere, still is everywhere. Before that, Telling Lies, before that, Her Story. Her Story, really this breakout moment for you, right? Where you went from just being some developer to being Mr. Sam Barlow, all right? But I also appreciate the way the scope has evolved, where, Her Story was like camera footage, we're interviewing in an interrogation room kind of thing. It's these one-on-one interviews. Then Telling Lies became, okay, cool, there's sets obviously, and there's these scenes, and I adored that game, and I know I've talked to you about it before, but that's another one of my, as much as I love Immortality, I think one of my like cherished memories, like I think where it really, because Her Story didn't click for me the same way Telling Lies did, but Telling Lies clicked because it was me with, cuddled up on the couch with my dog, Jen was watching something on TV, and I had AirPods on and was using it on the iPad, and I had a notebook of just like Diary of a Madman scribbles and drawings and this, that, and the other. Like that was such a cool, unique experience. To go from Her Story being these single camera things for the most part, scenes in Telling Lies, but then to be really doing 3 movies. Was that organic? Did you feel like you were stretching every time? When you came up with the concept of Immortality, did you think you'd be able to accomplish it the way you wanted to, the vision you had for it?
Yeah, I think each time it's like, what's the most, like, don't hold back. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm a terrible business person because it's like anything we made
Welcome to the club.
on the last game, we'll spend on the next game.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you would, the number of people that were like, dude, just make Her Story 2.
Yeah,
Her Story cost this much money to make.
Yeah.
Right? And did huge numbers. They were like, if you just did a Her Story 2, quids in, right? And a 3 and a 4 or whatever, you'd be awesome. And people want it, right? Like, just do a different mystery.
Sure.
Different personality. But every time I was like, oh no, like this is me getting the ability to say yes to myself, right?
Yeah.
And do cool things.
Yeah.
So each time it's always like, and I'm like, I was brought up by a northern family in the UK, like very frugally minded.
Sure.
So I'm like not an idiot, right? I'm not there going like, here's the blank check, let's go crazy and bankrupt myself. But it's always like, how far can we push it? So definitely, especially Immortality was, I was saying to Blessing, like when I grew up and I was really into films, like the directors I liked were like Ken Russell, Nick Rogue, Peter Greenaway, all these British perverts who just the criticism would always be it's too much, right?
Yeah,
It's too indulgent. Ken Russell, it's too much. It's too colorful. Too much craziness on screen. But I look at that and I'm like, I prefer that to not enough, right?
Sure, yeah.
And I think especially within games because there's so much technology, things take so long. There are so many gatekeepers. You see less of that, right? Like occasionally you'll get like a Kojima or even I say like a Alan Wake 2. You see like Remedy going, let's go. Let's just hit the gas, right?
Why not have a musical?
So Immortality was definitely me going, this could be a huge disaster, right? All right, there's some hubris in giving myself permission to attempt this.
Yeah.
But I know there's enough of my brain that's like sensible, that's like, I think we can do this.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely like, there's no point doing this unless, and like every game, you want it to feel like this is the coolest thing I've done, or the coolest thing I can do. So there was definitely, I mean, there was I think the first time I pulled in Sham, who was like our line producer on the film side, the producer on the film side, and was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking we do. Here's what we want to shoot. I think we can do it for this much money. And he's like, shooting 3 movies
Yeah.
for this much money, and one of them is a costume drama, and they're period movies.
Yeah.
You know, that's more expensive
Yeah.
than just doing a normal movie, Sam. And I was like, yeah, but I was like, but whoa, just chill. Let me pitch it to you. Like, this is how we're going to film it. This is the vibe. This is the structure and everything. So yeah, there's always that. I mean, I think. So we announced. We didn't announce. Like
You announced. You teased 2 games.
teased.
Announcement.
2 new games on Steam right now.
Yeah, so he teased some games on Steam, and people have pointed out that Immortality was originally teased as Project A, And then we just teased Project C and D. So there's like a missing B. And B is the one that, as an idea, is like 80% done in my head.
Okay.
That was me going, how do you go beyond immortality in terms of like, of this particular vector? Like, how do you keep going in this direction? And I was like,
There was a tweet.
that could be the one that like kills if I actually keep my foot on the gas pedal. This could be like.
There was a tweet that was like, in the next Sam Barlow game, he just comes to your house and kills you. I was like, yeah, that's like, I feel
That
like
would be
it's
cheaper.
gonna
That'd be a
get
lot
there.
cheaper than making a video game.
It's a lot of murder, though.
But yeah, I think it's, and yeah, Blessing was asking me about like how I feel about where, you know, from starting with her story and then, you know, plugging back into more traditional games I made. And it's like, especially in this climate of everything is bad, like being in a position where I don't have to ask permission in the same way of people, right? Like when her story blew up, all these people came to me and were like, oh my God, we want her story too, whatever. And I was like, if I'd pitched you her story 6 months ago, you'd have slammed the door in my face, right? Like, and being able to, and even like Immortality, like we'd done Telling Lies with Annapurna, they were super cool and supportive. Immortality was such a thing where it felt like, I don't feel like I could make this game if I had someone, even if they're as loving and supportive a partner as Annapurna, just the act of knowing I have to submit this to someone and semi-justify it. For the particular thing Immortality was. But yeah, it's just, trying to keep making interesting things, delight and surprise people. It's the goal.
Let's delight and surprise again. Immortality, PlayStation 5 right now. We're jumping into our first bit. That's you.
This is very game within game too right now because couch.
Yeah, right.
Interview.
Yeah, being interviewed on the thing. And
You know, it's
But like, what are the chances, like, when I played Alan Wake 2, and I'm like, they have this whole thing at the talk show, and I'm like, there's a vibe.
It's very
Something embedded in our culture.
That was the funny thing about Alan Wake 2, where we were having these conversations of how surreal it was to watch the interview with Sam Lake, not being Sam Lake, and then he was Sam Lake, and then it was the thing of like, wait, are we playing the game, and by playing the game, are we part of the game, and what does this become? Here you are just chasing this down here. So, when you eliminate all the footage, and you choose what scene to come back to, why this one? Why was this the starting part?
exposition. It's not my question.
So I think I've done the same thing on the last 3 games where
He saw 20,000 girls. And
I know the structure of the whole thing, and I know what's going on, all sorts of vectors of the story, and I don't know what the start is whilst making it. And then at some point, I'm like, we should figure out how we get into this. Like, what is the hook into it? And like, with her story, it was like, oh, what if we put murder as the search word? And then this pulls up some clips that gives you this kind of bookending. With Telling Lies, it was like, oh, we need a way into the different characters. We have all these multiple characters. How do we get into that? And then here it was like, well, we have these 3 decades. How do you not prejudice the 3 movies? So you need something kind of neutral. Oh, but also, like, we didn't want to have a big setup. Like, one of the interested parties was like, oh, don't you need to sit the player down and explain to them what's going on?
Yeah.
I was like, that's not really how the games work. But it was like, oh, if we have the chat show context, here is someone explaining who this person is and why it's important. We catch Marissa at this midpoint of her career, so it's kind of intersecting a couple of the movies. It already has this level of meta remove of it being a talk show. So yeah, it was like, oh, and this works. And actually, we did a big change. So originally, as scripted, and I think we even cast this, like I did this deep dive into talk shows, and I was obsessed with, there's the Johnny Carson show, and then there was the Dick Cavett show.
Yep.
Like, if you have hours to kill, go on YouTube and do a Dick Cavett deep dive. Like, the talk shows back then were incredible, because people were drunk, generally, and the pacing of them is crazy. It's like watching me make Blessing run over. It's like people just talk and talk and talk. There's no real structure. Even if people are there to talk about, now like late night shows now, it's all gimmicks, right?
They're all promotional,
it's like
right?
5 minutes of this.
Show and
But the Dick Cavett show, it's just literally a couple of like actors or directors, whatever, drunk, just talking for hours. So I was obsessed with the textures of these two things. So we originally wrote it that we had Johnny Carson show, which would have been this point, and then there's a future interview, which was going to be a Dick Cavett. So it was like we have these two different textures. And then we started spitballing, having this as being the start, and this being the scene where we introduce you to the idea of the match cut mechanic and tell you can click on anything and everything's connected. And it was like, oh, if we only have one Johnny Carson, people are going to click on Johnny Carson and it's got nowhere to go.
Right.
So, what if we kill off, and for the lawyers watching, this isn't Johnny Carson. This is a fictional character inspired. He's
Any likeness is just
Jimmy.
purely
He's
coincidental.
Jimmy in the script.
Exactly.
And we're like, oh, if we make it the same guy, then we get, if people click him, they get to see there's a bit of a time jump. They get to suddenly see this guy, John Durek, who's now going from this scene where you see cute baby Marissa, or intermediate Marissa, to, oh, there's now John Durek talking about the tragedy of Marissa Marcel. So that's like an interesting shift.
Not this clip, actually, a different one.
So we kind of roll the dice, right?
So we made that tweak.
I never knew that. That's so cool.
But I think we had actually cast the guy to play the Dick Cavett role.
Oh no!
And so we had to be like, actually.
See ya.
And we'd also I think done a read. Had we done a read? We must have done a read, I guess. And so we'd seen this actor and was like, oh, he's great.
He was incredible.
I want to do a whole TV show that's just him.
Oh my gosh. He was so great.
He took it so seriously as well. Like
And
he had the mannerisms and the patter, and every time we would cut, he would keep talking for 2 minutes, as if the show was still running. He would go into the ad break in a different way.
Now, do you like that?
After I've said cut, it's fine. You can do whatever you want.
But sometimes it gives you wiggle room. But it's true. A lot of people actually ask, like, it seems like there's improv happening after the director in the scenes yelled out. And it's, did you improv? And I'm just like, no. Literally everything was scripted. Like, because if you went, off in any kind of way, any kind of direction, like, you're risking that, the match cut stuff falls apart, or the subtext falls apart, or that you're just adding stuff that doesn't make sense. So no improv at all.
Marissa there. Oh, into the 70s.
Different Marissa.
This is a beautiful set. So we were trying to riff on the idea of in the 70s you have Andy Warhol. A big inspiration for me is Andy Warhol became a filmmaker at some point. And he made these weird-ass movies. He made like a movie that's the Empire State Building and it lasts 18 hours that I did go and watch as a student. Like that's what being a student is for, is like I have the time to sit and watch an 18-hour Andy Warhol movie. And he also did this movie, The Kiss, which exists in different cuts, doesn't fully exist online, which is like every cool hot person in the 70s in New York kissing each other. It's the sexiest, hottest thing you've ever seen.
We do a little bit of a thing of that.
Well, there's a homage to it in there, but like, whatever your sexuality, your gender, or your predisposition is, you are covered in this. If you find like the longer cut of it. So then we were like, oh, can we do that? So he had famously. He had a studio called the Silver Factory where everything was covered in foil. And we were like, can we do that? And this is where they film. This is the only Sunny in Philadelphia building.
Oh, no way.
I didn't know that.
I've never watched it. The opening title is this like green doors or something?
Yeah.
That's this building.
Oh, my God.
And I've only since discovered, we also filmed Telling Lies here.
Oh, wow.
Since discovered, it's in every movie. I was watching this weird Jane Fonda 80s movie, and she's in it, and I'm like, oh, it's...
So Jane Fonda walked these halls.
Yeah, she's in... have you seen, it's called The Morning After? It's about Jane Fonda as an older actress who's an alcoholic, and she wakes up one morning next to a dead guy. It's actually a really good movie.
I haven't seen it. I have to watch
it. She's great as an alcoholic. There's it has the dude from Addams Family is in it. He's the weak point of the movie. He's really badly cast.
Oh, great. Oh, look, Ty.
This is our most expensive scene.
Fuck. Are we allowed to curse on the show?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I'm just reading the line.
No, don't get mad at me. It's like the game's taking care of that for us if we're not allowed to curse on the show.
So this involved the most research, this scene.
This one?
Because I was like, when did someone first say fuck in a movie? And there is actually some debate. Okay. And I went into this with the wrong information. I thought there's a movie called Whatever, it's such a 70s movie, or 60s movie, called Whatever Happened to Whatchamacallit, and it has, Mick Jagger's girlfriend who rides Marianne Faithfull. Marianne Faithfull's in it, and Marianne Faithfull says fuck in this movie. And a lot of the trivia sources will tell you that was the first time anyone ever said fuck in a movie. Apparently it's not true. There is one other.
You got it.
But I was like, this is the point where like, there was this sea change in like what you could put on screen and just the ability to say fuck, right? You've gone from like Hitchcock's Psycho, where it was the first time anyone had ever seen a toilet flush.
Really?
On screen. That was like banned.
Fascinating.
And Hitchcock's trick was, in Psycho, she throws the evidence down the toilet and flushes it.
Yeah.
So when the ratings people were like, you can't show this. He was like, I have to, because this is the only shot that reveals this plot element. And they were like, God damn it, Hitchcock.
You got me again, Hitchcock.
So this was a lots of research, but then this had the most extensive CGI work.
This
scene?
Because this scene, his mic was on show.
Oh, no.
And because it's all grainy, people are going to spot it now, I don't know. But there's like behind him at the start, there's like a crocheted blanket.
Okay.
And so we had to like, or at some point the camera, maybe when the camera goes in, so we had to like digitally erase and because it's the weird thing with this stuff, right? Is because you want it to be as authentic as possible. We couldn't have any modern CGI or any modern filming techniques involved. But then you're like, but also so you couldn't see the film. This thing behind him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, that's like the hardest thing in the world to
So
paint
you're
out.
telling me, this is the real blanket over here, and this is
There's a whole section where part of that is painted
Look
out.
at us
I
learning
would
about
never
it, you know what I mean?
I mean, every time I talk to Sam, I learn about immortality.
It's one of those where you're like, because
and
there were
everything
takes where the pack wasn't in there, right? But we were like, I really like this take.
I thought the CGI.
I can't click on it.
I thought the most extensive CGI scene was the Two of Everything mocap dance scene because
That was another paint out.
I ripped the. I accidentally, I don't know what happened, but it ripped as I was rehearsing or something, and then there was like, what was it, like masking tape on the back that you had to...
We were up
giving you,
against
like,
it.
more
We had
flashbacks.
this location that was a mocap studio, that was a real functioning mocap studio, and he was confused because I wanted it to look like what someone in 1999 would have thought mocap looked like based on the technology then.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I have all this. He was like, I have all the suits. This is what it should look like. And I was like, no. This is like, this is pretend mocap from a 1990s film.
We're thinking tennis balls.
And we showed up, and the producers are like, you literally, like, we got to be out of here in an hour because we got to clean this guy's space up and everything. And we did like a couple of takes, and it was your dance routine, and there was this complicated camera move where we had a dolly placed all along the floor to spin around you, and we were running out of time, and then you ripped your suit.
Sorry.
And we were like, fuck, what are we going to do? And costume were like, I can tape it up and you'll never see. They taped it all up.
We lied.
Came back and they're like, you can see. So that was the other paint job where they were like constantly painting it out. I love this scene. This is like such a
I love
key
seeing
scene.
this scene.
Like we had this whole theory that was, this movie Minsky never comes out.
Yeah.
We did this deep, deep dive into erotic thrillers, right?
That's been man, what a torturous thing for you.
Fascinating genre, and you see this crazy evolution in the erotic thrillers. And we had, my take on erotic thrillers is, if at the end it's revealed that the femme fatale or the male love interest in the few ones where you have that, if at the end it's revealed they're not the killer,
Yeah.
huge buzzkill, like the whole thing deflates. Because the whole point of an erotic thriller is the sexy danger of like, am I sleeping with a psychopath? Am I going to be killed? This such great sex, but is it going to kill me, right?
Sure.
So we were like, okay, let's make an erotic thriller where the femme fatale is the killer. But then coming into it, it's new Hollywood, it's the 70s, where you have all these much more ambiguous meaning and kind of authentic treatments. And so the idea is that Marissa, the character, is involved in creating this. She's come off making Ambrosio, which is the archetypal, it was written in the 1800s, but it's the archetypal film noir. You have the monk, who's the authority figure, the policeman, the detective. You have the femme fatale, who destroys him. Like, it's pure film noir. So we were like, having come through that experience, having grown as a person through being that character, Marissa now wants to add some flesh to it and create a more authentic erotic thriller story, right? So she's involved in the creation and writing. So we wanted to create this character of Franny who, like, the question was, can you have an erotic thriller where she did do the murder, but you're still sympathetic? right?
Yeah.
And the answer to that was yes, if the person she killed is Picasso. Like if the person she killed is such a dick.
the
There's this book.
only
So when you finish looking at the Dick Cavett, go. There's this book called My Life with Picasso by Francois Gillot. Read that. She was Picasso's muse from her teenage years. She was the only one of his muses to survive intact. And she wrote this incredible book.
And she's an artist in her own right.
So much insight into him as an artist, but then him also as a terrible human being.
Okay.
And Marissa had read that and was crafting this story around that. Oh, this was a fun scene to film. You have to pay this guy danger money because he's there with his genitals out.
That's dangerous?
Yeah, you get paid like beyond stunt money to be in a scene where this is happening because.
I didn't know that.
Okay, here's
And it's,
TMI.
Yeah.
If you're going to be seen like this, they need to strap your things down
Okay.
because we couldn't see his thing.
Got it. Yeah.
But he's supposed to be
like
fully
a
nude,
modesty
right?
sock or something
So
like that?
so you go beyond
So
that. So you
much
have
modesty
socks,
stuff.
but to do this, there is like some adhesive involved. So to do that, they have to shave the area
Sure.
for the adhesive to go down.
Yeah.
So you're paying this guy who's showing up. I'm in a video game. What the hell's happening? And it's like you're going to be fully nude, and we have to shave your sensitive area, strap it all down.
Yeah.
So here's an extra. Like here's your danger
Here's your money,
for doing
you're
this.
getting all of this, right?
But he's also like
Just making sure.
imagine like this.
We're launching a lot of careers here. I'm like,
This-
I can go.
This
Right.
production was like for the people like Manon who were like involved from the beginning and kind of knew what it was. Like obviously it's very complex and challenging, but for the day players,
Yeah.
show up. What am I doing? And in this scene,
Well, okay, but I've
But
talked.
he knew in advance, right? I mean,
he knew
Yeah.
he knew what was being asked of him, right?
Right.
But the experience for him of then being in a scene where the other actors are then laughing at his nudity in character and finding him funny. So before we rolling, Ty and Kai are like ad-libbing and just and riffing, being amused by this guy's nudity, and this poor guy's lying there like, this is my real nudity.
But like I like how you're like, oh, for the day players. But I've talked to you, Manon, right, about this before. Of like, again, I described it on the podcast. Like, I'm a square, and this is such a crazy game, and there's a lot of nudity, and there's a lot of sex, but there's a lot of killing, and there's stuff. Like, when you got the script, right, and when you auditioned for this, like, what was your read on? Hey, I'm doing a video game. Wait, what is this? Like, what is happening?
yeah, it was interesting because on the one hand, it was like these scenes are so great, and then I got the script, and it was like this script is like one of the best things I've ever read, and I'm just obsessed with it. And then I got the 52-page nudity writer sex scenes document, and I was just like wait, like what is this? And then the video game thing, I was just so. But Sam did a great job, and Natalie Watson, our producer as well, of getting an intimacy coordinator involved from the jump. We had so many. Each actor who has nudity and intimacy scenes had one-on-one meetings with her, and those were private meetings. Sam wasn't there making sure we said yes. And then you basically go through it super legalistically of how much can you see and when and for how long. And I just really found that the nudity made sense for the story we were trying to tell, you know what I mean? And then there were small shifts. Sam was open to changing stuff around. I hope ultimately everyone felt comfortable. I felt comfortable, and I think it serves Marissa's story, and it's also a commentary on.
That was the hard line, right? Was because I was referencing things like, I'm obsessed with Nick Rogue. He did this movie Performance, has all this Mick Jagger and everyone has all these crazy sex scenes in it. And I remember watching a documentary, and Nick Rogue is like, oh, we had so much fun filming this. I was in there with the camera in amongst all this tangle of naked bodies. No one knew who was touching who. It was so crazy, man.
And you're like,
And then you see that, and then it cuts to one of the actresses now being like, I actually found it very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and then one of the other actresses actually ended up taking her own life, and you're like, oh.
Jesus Christ.
And so then when we were filming this and talking to Gene, the intimacy coordinator, it was so Gene comes in with a whole bag of tricks that's if we're shooting an HBO show, this is how you make it look like you're seeing this, and you see this, and we break it down into shots.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're like, oh, but we're going to have an uninterrupted one take, and we want it to look like they were filming without an intimacy coordinator. We want it to feel like it was.
And she might be being
pushing.
exploited by the director. That's the thing that's hard is how do you show exploitation without creating something that's exploitative? But I think it strikes a really good balance also because for me it's yes. For
It
me,
begins.
yeah.
So there is no nudity.
For me, it's also like there is a difference between sex scenes and scenes of sexual violence, and I think
Sure.
like there's like those are already very distinct, and then the whole thing with sex scenes and like the male gaze and all of that is like, I mean, you know, on some level, I feel like your hands are sort of tied because the second you're showing nudity and like female nudity, like that is going to be seen in a certain way by a certain. So it's just, you know, and I don't think it's like inherently. I mean, you're tweeting about this all the time, like how everybody's scared of sex scenes in movies now, and I think Paul Mescal just said something like that as well. It seems to be that like. There's also like an aspect of like we don't want to be like puritanical about this, and we want to represent the era.
It's a real
and
hard
we want to.
line. I mean, the interesting thing for
We
me
did our
was.
best.
This gets right to the heart of the matter. Like this,
I'll
this
get out
is.
here, I'll get
I don't do Easter eggs, right? I don't like Easter eggs.
Yeah.
They had to put a gun to my head to put Easter eggs in Silent Hill when I was working, and I was like, please. And they were like, it's important. You have to have the dog ending, and I'm like, oh, okay. But this is, I guess, okay, an Easter egg in that like this is a recreation of what was my favorite painting.
Oh.
Growing up, there's this painting by Balthus called Sleeping Girl, and it's like the sexiest. See it in real life. I think it's at the Tate in London. It's like this big, basically of this girl sleeping, but it does all the things that I'm interested in. In that, you look at it and you're like, oh, from one hand, this is a beautiful woman sleeping, and in the painting, you just see one nipple, right?
Right.
But it's clear in the painting that she's maybe pretending to be sleeping. So she's aware that she's being looked at. So you get all these layers. But it's fundamentally like quite a sexy painting.
But there's no
and then-
nudity in this one, actually.
No,
This
but
wasn't even in the, yeah.
Then you learn, like Balthus, for all his career, he would be painting lots of stuff of like pubescent girls and things. And like David Bowie was a big defender. Like all these people were like, Balthus is an artist and defending him. Now he's dead, and so I grew up being like, oh yeah, he's exploring these themes, but he's doing it in a genuine way.
Yeah.
I feel like this is just constantly the cycle we're in now, where you're like, oh yeah, Louis C.K. is just doing all this great material about how awful the male psyche is, and then you're like, oh, actually,
That's
That's
pretty
why.
awful. And that's pretty awful.
now you look at the evidence, you go back and you go, actually no, Balthus was bad. Like,
Yeah.
So and actually there is a hidden layer to this scene where they talk about that. The really, really crazy thing for me was when we first approached people's teams, right?
Yeah.
So when you book actors, you mostly deal with their team first, and then you speak to the actor. And I know a bunch of people's teams, when the talent were like, oh, there's a lot of nudity in this game, they were like, yeah, that's just to sell more copies to the gamers, right? In the same way that like HBO has like a breast quota, right?
Yeah.
They were like, it's that, right?
Really though, right?
I mean, they did. They literally did in the old days. You
Sure.
had to have
Well, that was their
one
whole
shot.
thing. They were cable, so it's
Yeah.
like you can show a titty.
But I was like, no, you have to explain to them. Me putting nudity in this game makes my life
So much harder, right?
Yeah.
You have no idea how much harder it is as a video game to put this stuff in there. So we are doing it because I genuinely think that is part of human expression we should see,
And part
because
of the
it's
story.
thematic to the game,
Yeah.
because it's part of the story we're exploring. But the bit I was worried about is, as part of this nudity writer stuff, we had to have storyboards, and I don't storyboard generally, but we had to have
Yes.
storyboards of all the
I-
scenes with nudity in. So there's me drawing all the filth from this game, right? So the first thing the
Just
actors
stick figures.
see,
No, they're pretty good. Do you want to see? I still have the
Yeah, I
email.
want to see
the
it.
first thing people see
I can't
from,
show them
from their
actually,
director
'cause they're-
Sam is, here is Sam's mucky book of all his pictures of nudity. What a freak.
I remember
this guy
seeing
is.
those, and like there were some scenes in Ambrosio, especially where I was like, that's gonna have to change. It's like that's a little too much. And then what was also interesting was talking about lighting. Like sometimes changing nudity isn't about less nudity; it's about how is this lit and how does this look? And I don't know. There's a lot of different
Oh, I
ways
love
that you
this
can
scene.
make. I love it too. This was fun to shoot.
This was, yeah.
Just to finish that thought,
please,
like,
please.
Jean, our intimacy coordinator, I think something that she said a lot, which I thought was great, was like, she was there, to help make the intimate scenes hot and exciting and sexy. She's not there to be like, be robots and cover everybody up. It's like, it's how do we make both actors comfortable and like they're consenting to this so that nothing happens.
And the analogy is like a stunt performer, right? You want to have
Exactly.
a fight scene.
You want it to look
Someone
real.
could break
Sure.
their arm or get hurt doing a
Right.
fight scene or a stunt, but you want it to look exciting.
Yeah.
And sometimes the stunt coordinator is going to say, you shouldn't have your character jump off a roof, or you shouldn't have
Yeah.
your character punch someone in the eye.
Here's how we can make it even more exciting and also safe. And like, I think she did a brilliant job of that.
This scene, like, so the whole reason for the character Ty plays of Carl Greenwood's existence is so like a big source of inspiration on this project was on my t-shirt. It was Jean Seberg,
Okay.
the real life actress, very tragic life, makes you very angry, and also the parallel with Jane Fonda we're talking about. So you have Jean Seberg, Jane Fonda, both active around the same time, both get very involved in activism. Jane Fonda obviously has a very successful career and survives all of the various things. And Jean Seberg does not. There's a part of Jean Seberg's story where she has all these terrible marriages. She's mistreated horribly by her male directors, and she does a film with Clint Eastwood. And it's like a Western, something wagon. During the filming of it, her and Clint Eastwood have this affair, which is incredibly life-affirming to her. She's like, this is the happiest I've been, like I feel seen as a person. It's this beautiful, wholesome relationship.
Yeah.
we're in. And she's expecting when they finish wrapping that this will continue.
Sure.
They wrap the movie, Clint Eastwood's like, chill, this was just like a movie thing.
Sure, yeah, you're...
Later,
Yeah.
fucking crushing for it. So that combined with subsequent stuff that Eastwood did, especially to his ex-wife, makes me really just hate Clint Eastwood, like just with a passion. So for this movie, I was like,
You're an ocean of stories. Like, it's so good.
I'm gonna create a character, and Jesus, does Ty look like a young Clint Eastwood?
He does.
He also looks
does.
like a young Elvis Presley.
Because yeah, you
I
look
think it's
at
both.
photos of young Clint Eastwood, he was so hot, like smoking, just incredible. And I was like, we're gonna have this character who's gonna be young Clint Eastwood, right? Who is this conservative West Coast actor who has all these isms and is a very unadjusted, and we're going to bring him to the East Coast into the midst of this boiling pot of gender and sexuality and kind of progressivism. And the point for me was Marissa is going to fuck with this guy. Like I want
This is
her
a perfect scene, actually.
So there are lots, in terms of
demonstrating
crossing those boundaries, like there are scenes where she is doing things in the casting. She is playing with him in scenes in ways that are totally inappropriate. And are what a lot of men were doing to women, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, there's some complexity there because in some ways it's a bold thing, but it's also the same thing that's happening. So this whole thing was written like, let's just destroy Carl Greenwood as a character. And like in this scene, this was another one where I did tons of research because they ask him how many women he slept with, right? Because he's the chauvinist pig.
Yeah.
I have so much information up here of like how many people different actors slept with. Like what was the record? How many people did Beatty sleep with? And there's like some of these numbers, you're like, how many times a day did they have to have sex
To make
to hit these numbers?
They had quotas too.
Yeah, they're on the HBO quota.
But I love the line, and it's the fact that it's delivered without you seeing this guy's face, where he's like, "Oh, if I was gay, like you would think it was cool that I was sleeping with all these
He's like,
people."
but
And he's
you're
like,
not.
"But you're not," and it's just like, boom, you got it. Like,
Yeah.
So, for you, Manon, why was this a fun? You said this was a fun scene to film. What makes this one a standout for you?
It's fun to be sitting on the floor.
Like the blocking for me was great. Like I had to chill.
This was fun because it wasn't often that we got to work with a lot of the supporting
Yeah, it's
cast
like
and
everyone was
extras
in it,
as
right?
well. Yeah, and it was just like kind of like this party scene. I think it's a really great scene. I mean, as Sam was saying, for Ty Mulbeck's character Carl, and so you're seeing their relationship sort of develop. She's playing with him. That's a fun kind of dynamic. And also, yeah, we were shooting in this building. This is supposed to be like this is not a Christmas party, but essentially we were shooting in this warehouse where there was no air conditioning and it was like 1,000 degrees. And every time we would shoot in this room, I feel like the heat almost made it so that you just feel like you're kind of like starting to not hallucinate, but like you're going into like a little bit of a different realm with it, and it just feels very, we're drinking cranberry juice and smoking, thyme and rosemary, but it just feels like.
remember there's one extra who is one of the gallery scenes that we shot like 5 takes with them, and then they made themselves sick from smoking too many of the fake cigarettes.
There,
So
yeah,
then they
it's like
disappeared.
not inhaling.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And they were like, is this going to screw anything up continuity-wise? That this person doesn't exist? Fake cigarettes are the worst.
But this was just fun. I think it's fun, and I think it's like that fun party dynamic, but also like pushing each other. Like I think Ty and I also had fun, kind of playing that game of who has power in which moment and how is that shifting. And
like the corollary to what I was saying is that, so the version I wrote, which is essentially the lines that are in the script, is of Carl Greenwood as this two-dimensional ass. And then Ty shows up, and everyone fucking loves Ty.
He's wonderful.
And he adds more dimensions to the character because there is this whole thread of Marissa's character actually being attracted to him, but in a way of like being slightly condescending, like, oh, he's this beautiful, simple-minded guy.
Yeah. A himbo is how I remember you described it in the script.
And so, you know, adding in the fact that actually Ty made him less of a dick.
Yeah.
Just, you know, it's a case of like bringing an actor in and they just add a dimension to it, right?
Yeah,
He's harder to hate, you know, and I think his storyline is really interesting, and I think there's more of an emotional impact with what happens down the line with him because of Ty bringing that heart to the character.
This is the scene where it might be that lady in front of that painting.
She's
ended
the
up
extra?
literally ended up throwing up from smoking too many of the
Oh my
cigarettes.
God.
And then this painting on the left, this is where like, you know, I have all my themes laid
Love
out in
it.
the script, and I'm like, you know, eyes and things are very important to this. And then the art team came up and they're like, here's my giant eye vagina painting.
So
I'm
cool.
like,
Was
okay.
that Anastasia who did
Yeah.
that?
I'm like, just as long as people know I didn't write, that's what we were going to see.
I actually never noticed it.
You two are so cute at the end of this. This
I
was like
love
such a good
that.
take.
This was fun too. I feel like Minsky, I mean, I love all three movies, but this was so fun because the dynamic between the characters was so fun, both like on screen and after, you know, they yell cut. It's just you get to see the progression of their relationship, and then I think she feels so confident. It was fun to feel that confidence of like, I'm this like amazing up and coming actress, and I'm like, you know, making stuff in New York in the 70s. Like you feel that energy, and it's so exciting. And then that's why it's like it's so hard when it all comes crashing down. And Two of Everything felt very depressing to shoot
Yeah. I mean,
because of the different context.
Someone was asking me, like, do you have a favorite movie or something? And
you?
that was also asking me, like, what is the point of it all? And I was like, I think I feel like I discovered this through shooting it, but it was like, Marissa is the happiest in the 70s,
Yeah.
right? Like there is a rise and fall thing going on. And I think I have a huge attraction to the freedoms of that era. And,
Yeah.
you know, and certainly like in the last few years, there's that thing of slowly realizing we're not necessarily the best timeline.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when I was growing up, it was always like everything's getting better.
Right.
We're on this march. The internet is cool, and it's still cool, and it's still cool. Now it's like, oh shit, our internet's bad.
Oh, friends.
What's happening?
What is this?
Got the rumble, the controller. You know you got to rewind. You get that rumble, you got to
So
rewind,
this is,
ladies
like,
and
this is
gentlemen.
fun. This is the last shot of technically what would be the last shot of the movie Minsky, which is also one of the first things they film in the chronology. So we had so many fun little games of like the order they shot the movies in and what was going on, and obviously the fact that this movie doesn't get finished. There's something like, you know, poignant about the fact that they shoot the ending to the movie and then they don't get
could
around to
never
actually
finish
finishing
it, yeah.
This was like a cool little one where you're like, what the fuck is going on with Marissa right now?
Someone guessed that the Lost in Cult announcement was going to be that we were going to release all three movies in full, and I was like, I wish, but no.
I feel like during shooting, in the midst of COVID craziness, I promised you, and Miles, that we would record Ambrosia, right?
Yes. Or that we would do like a
podcast
script
of it or
reading or a
something, yeah.
podcast of the whole script.
Because we wrote the movies fully, right? Like these are beginning to end full movies.
Outrageous.
And then we
Which
chopped
you can now get, Lost in Cult. You're going to be able to get these scripts. I'm very
You're
excited.
gonna see what
Check
that was
them
like.
out.
And then we chopped stuff out. So generally, we kind of tried to cover, like you see 90-ish% of everything. But there are some scenes where you'll only see the first half of a scene, right? Or the end of it. And there was a couple in Ambrosio that had these long monologues or what have you.
Or you see the table read, you don't see the,
I love that jump cut.
Are people paying attention? I'm just making sure. Not you.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I remember there was a point where you and Miles both petitioned me to add back in. You were like,
Yeah.
we get you can't
We
do this
were-
for every scene, Sam. Can you add back in this monologue? And I was like,
You were like, I
It's
can't
like
because
the point is that it's there and you feel the presence of it, but it's not like, you know what I mean? But then I think the way I made that go away was like, I promise you we'll sit down and we'll record a podcast that's a full script.
a lot of empty promises to get the actors to stop
COVID
asking
heads,
for stuff.
You know, it was a hell
The
of a
podcast is a great idea.
yeah.
Just do a giant read through of it or whatever. Yeah.
Because there was the one in the gazebo, right? Where he has his
Oh, I remember what you're
inscription.
talking. Yeah. Who
at
are
these
these
two.
characters?
I don't know.
Oh, look at this guy. He's a very attractive human being, isn't he?
He was so kind. What a sweetheart as well.
So again,
Kyler Pettis.
you write these 3 movies. Then there's the narrative on top of that. Was
The
this
glasses, I just noticed that too.
What?
He's wearing his sunglasses because he knows he's not on
great
camera in this
detail.
scene.
Oh,
and
yeah. Then he got
Great,
it.
great detail.
For you, how hard was it to like? Are you trying to memorize everything? Are you doing the scenes before? Are you? How do you keep it all straight? Like,
Yeah, well,
how much rehearsal went into all this?
So thankfully, we were able to rehearse we had to rehearse all the intimacy stuff.
Sure.
And actually, there's quite a lot of dialogue in a lot of the intimacy scenes.
Yeah.
So that we got to do that, but then, yeah, some of us just like petitioned Sam to like have extra rehearsals before the shoot even started because, I mean, most of us were cast like I was cast pretty far in advance. So I had the time to actually memorize all 3 scripts pretty much before we ever got to set. And then also like meeting with actors beforehand and behind the scenes when Sam didn't have time, like just or like FaceTiming. I did a lot of FaceTiming with Ty because he was in like Washington before coming to set, so we hadn't gotten to meet in person. But we were like, we need to rehearse this. Like, we need to be just so we were on FaceTime, like running scenes together. So that was super helpful. And then also so many emails back and forth with you with script questions and phone conversations. And in terms of keeping it straight, like I think that's like, I want to shout out like Natalie Watson, who, just did a great job of making sure, that everybody knew what day it was, what time it was. And we shot pretty much chronologically. So we shot through...
That's great.
Because
we kind of had to.
We had to,
right?
but like Ambrosio, Minsky, and 2 of Everything. So we were jumping in time a little bit, but we were pretty much shooting chronologically what Marissa would have been shooting day to day. Like this is day 6, and the next scene was day 7, and then But yeah, it was and then a lot of like in the makeup chair just before going on. Like,
Yeah.
By the time we got to 2 of Everything, I was like, I don't remember these lines anymore, and I would be like getting the wig on, and I'd be like, what is it? Okay, okay.
It's only after we finish these things that I suddenly have like massive sudden like anxiety hits where I'm like realizing how much I was asking of the actors.
For sure.
Because when you're in it, you're just
had
like, we're getting
time.
on with it, right?
Yeah.
But because I've worked actually prior to these FMV games, worked with actors
I love this scene.
that struggle to memorize lines, right? Like
Yeah.
the Bruce Willis thing of needing the in-ear thing or whatever, or just. And then I shoot these things, and I'm telling lies. I think like Logan had 20 pages a day, had to be off book.
Yeah.
And not only do you have to be off book with those lines, but you have to do a 10-minute solid take. So you can't be like, oh crap, let's just keep going.
You can't
I'll
fuck
get
it
back
up.
to it, right? So it's.
And you're only getting like a couple of takes as well, so there's no time to warm up. I think I found that on Ambrosio. I was just like, I love this scene. I love Harlota so much.
There's been a whole bunch of conversations about it since been getting the jump scares and doing this and rewinding and finding it. And like for me, it was that night 2 of playing where the one popped up for the first time, and it was like, what the
What scene was it?
I don't even
You don't even
I
remember?
don't remember that because it was like one of those things that I think I was taking the mechanics in the Rumble for granted. So I wasn't even rewinding on the Rumbles for the longest time. And this is, I heard Bless talk to you on Games Daily about it. We were in the same boat of,
Yeah.
we were both playing it. He was a bit ahead of me, but at this point he wasn't that far. So it was like, you didn't know what the mechanics exactly were. You didn't know what was going. So to discover that on my own and have that pop is like, what?
That was such a critical thing. Like we did have some feedback from one interested party that was like, you need to tutorial this thing.
Yeah.
Like up front.
No.
And I was like, no.
I'm
I was
so
like, I was
glad
like,
you
it doesn't
didn't
matter if
do
it
that.
takes 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour.
Yeah.
Like you want people to organically find it, right?
People
Yeah.
stick with it.
that
I
gets
think.
that gets fun. And it's my analogy was Zelda Breath of the Wild. The
Yeah.
Edge review, the person that reviewed Breath of the Wild for Edge,
Yeah.
didn't find the seaside village till 60 hours in.
You ready, Thomas? Keep it
And then
moving.
was just like,
Marissa lead you?
cool. There's like
Yeah,
a whole
yeah,
ass
yeah,
village
yeah,
I've never
yeah,
seen.
yeah.
That's how much is going on in this world. Like that's a cool thing.
Yeah,
to have that
100%,
ability
no.
of just sitting back.
Nothing without you. You will always be a footnote in my biography.
This was a cool set that we found.
How many sets or like locations did you have to find?
I mean, quite a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, right?
And it was mixed because like Ambrosio was supposed to be studio filmed, so a lot of that we got to build in a studio. So it was
Pretty much
somewhat
all of that
similar.
was on a soundstage, aside from what the church and
Yeah, there's a couple of points where we were like,
Yeah.
oh, we need to go somewhere else to get
Yeah.
this. And then Minsky was much more like, oh, this is going to be run and gun. It's much more location based. So we had like but we had a good nexus of places that we were using. And then like 2 of everything ended up jumping around a lot more because it was like, oh, we need the cliffside pop stars mansion. Oh, we need this building. Like,
That house was cool.
oh, we
I
did
hope
this.
we get to that scene. I love that house. Look at
It's
that
like,
house.
oh, this is like essentially J-Lo's mansion, right?
Yeah.
So when we did the location scouting for that, we basically got to look around all these, and it needs to have a pool with a view of LA
Yeah.
and look expensive. And so we're touring all these places, and everywhere you look around, you're like, and it was like one of them was like the manager of Korn,
Okay.
and you're like, oh, I can see how.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd like the place we actually ended up shooting. The guy was really nice. I don't know. I mean, he was probably filthy rich, but he seemed nice. One of them we looked around. There was this guy who was just a huge asshole, and he was like, "Oh, he had his car garage rebuilt for $300,000, just the car garage,
Just the garage.
and it had a like glass view over LA." And he was like, "But I just need to book like 2 BMW adverts, and it pays for itself." And he was just horrible. He was gross. And I was
Making your money work for
I was
you.
like, "You're a horrible."
Got to spend money to make money.
Everybody on the crew, because the crew is all indie movie people. I'm indie games people. We're all looking around like, where did we go wrong?
we are in the wrong business.
There are people living like this. This is outrageous.
Redo. We did this one
Yeah,
already.
I know. I know it happens. All right.
Play it better.
I'm trying to get it somewhere different, somewhere. But I also don't want to give everything away.
You
so,
don't-
like,
no, it's
There's been a
good.
few rumbles where I'm like, I'm not gonna.
This is a pretty big giveaway scene that maybe. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we haven't seen a lot of 2 of everything
I got really good now.
thus far.
There we
Here
go.
we go.
I've got really good at like testing people, being like, how do I get to this scene? And giving them the speed runner, being like, if you click on this until you see this, and then keep clicking on these.
We'll get me to the cool mansion. What do you want me to do? Tough guy, huh?
Go back,
No pressure.
back it up, and click on his face. This was the whole thing as well, like. All the actors playing camera assistants got like a crash course
They were
from Doug, our
so great.
DP, on like how to
Yeah.
actually be a camera assistant.
Yeah.
By the end of it all, they're all like, yeah. They'd all be like, can I do this move? And like, not for every shot, dude. Just
They were so.
click on them again.
brilliant.
Let's find the mansion. See if we can find this nice mansion. You can see.
I love that it seems like you know the path, and I don't know. You're just gonna get to him.
Click on
I
it.
know this is horrible rich people. This is Epstein business.
This is this wonderful actress pretending she can't sing when she can.
That's the worst thing I found. Asking actors to do a thing badly, because
No, I'm classically trained.
they don't want.
I did
Yeah,
it.
that's good.
They don't want out of context people to see them. Like, I'm telling lies.
Yeah,
Asked
yeah.
Angela Serafian to do a not perfect French accent because her character is supposed to be pretending to be French.
Yeah.
And you want people to be like, that's not convincing, and then be like, oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah,
Because she's
yeah.
actually a woman living in Ohio. But then it's like, yeah, but I don't want people to see this clip out of context and just think I'm bad at what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, I don't want people to think I'm bad at
The business and the art, it's a hard thing to balance
Mash
both.
it all up together.
I want us to also get to when you see the view. I don't know why I'm interested in showing people the view from this house, but I just thought
so
it was
good.
so,
The whole
it was so
LA
beautiful.
on the
I
outside.
wanted to live there.
There were a lot of dead lizards in
What?
this pool, though, that we had to keep fishing out.
Sure.
Because it's surrounded by beautiful, lush greenery.
Yeah.
These lizards come crawling out.
no.
They fall in.
You got to cover your pool.
Before each shoot day, the guy would go through with a net, be like, let's get some dead lizards out of here.
Another dead
I
lizard.
don't know if you would have seen them.
Now in the chat here, Fib D90 says it was funny to see Manon and the talk show guy reunited in the Dave episode.
Yes.
He was in that too.
Not Johnny Carson. David Storrs, who played our
the
Jimmy
Letterman
Fallon-esque or
The Letterman
Letterman
guy.
guy.
Gotcha.
And I randomly reunited in an episode of Dave
wow.
this past season. He was brilliant in that. So funny. I know, we kind of had a moment of like, who are you? Who am I? How do we know each other?
Oh, man, this was the worst shot to film.
Why? More lizards?
Trying to get an inflatable snake to
Float the way you want it to?
do it. And I think it's sort of, and that was one of the things we, in some cases, got to lean into, where it was like, this is supposed to be showing how annoying it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's actually being annoying for us, but what you don't see is off camera, Brian, our prop guy, who just jumped in, and it was getting cold at this point, because this was the
I
end of the day.
remember.
This is the last shot of the day. He sat off camera, soaking in this cold, cold swimming pool. And everyone in the crew is giving him tips like, give it a flick with your wrist as it goes in. He's like, guys, I tried. Like, let
Shut up! I'm gonna do the
let
thing.
me
and I'll
throw
get it
the
done the way I
inflatable
get it
snake
done.
in there.
I just remember going to Natalie and being like, "Can I go home?"
You really don't need me
Like
for the
I don't.
snake
I can
floating
go,
in the
right?
pool.
It's cold. It's a long drive. This is when I asked you what a martini shot was. Do you remember that?
That's a funny anecdote.
Sam knew
Life
more
imitating
about.
art.
Yeah, about.
So in filmmaking, you have the martini shot.
Okay.
The martini shot is named after a particular actress who liked to have a martini waiting for her
Oh.
at the end of the day of filming.
Sure.
So if you called it's the martini, you're telling everyone this is the last shot of the day.
Yeah.
Let's get this one done, then we all get to go party.
Got it.
So it's commonly used on a film set generally, like, oh, this is the martini, guys. So everyone knows, like, this is the last shot of the day.
Yeah.
So there's an off-camera line in that other scene where they end up, like, kissing each other. And it's part of the clash between the director Fisher and the DP John Durick, where he wanted to be sexier and he wants them to be freer. And so Marissa's like, oh, couldn't we just, like, start kissing? And Fisher's like, no, that's not how it's written. And John Durick says, it's the martini, let her have some fun. So Manon, exemplifying the naivety of a young Marissa Marcel.
My
in her
first
film
screen
role,
job, okay? First
comes to
screen
me and
job.
she's like, oh, is this because she's drunk?
Yeah.
She's been drinking lots of martinis.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said. Yeah.
So very in sync.
And Sam was like, "No, you sweet angel. That's
No,
not what that
child,
means."
no. But I like that because I think earlier, you're talking about how you didn't really realize how much you were asking of them, right? And I feel like having talked to you about this project before, and so much at this point, right? But then engaging with it, like, that had to have played to your strength, right? You came out of school, like, you were ready to go. Like, this is a big deal. You knew this was a huge opportunity. Like, you wanted to crush it. So, like, you throw yourself into this.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was like an opportunity of a lifetime. I still kind of feel like I'm like, how can I ever top this? Nobody's,
Yeah.
but truly, because it feels like you just never get an opportunity to play something like this if you're a newcomer and like a nobody. You don't, like, if this was a movie, this would have been offered to, I don't know, someone else, and it's like not me. I think that's part of what was so amazing about it for me, like as a young actor, is just like getting the opportunity to even be in the room for this, and then to do it. Yeah, it was like a crash course.
That was such a part of the casting as well, though, as we knew, like, obviously this was the most important character, and we knew that we were trying to tap into this idea of being a fresh face, but we also knew that she was going to be filming 3 movies across several decades, and had to hit all 3 beats of that. So when it came down to the final choice, it was you and this other actress, and it pretty much was split, all the people we were seeing, between people like Manon that were like early in their careers, hadn't done a lot of movies or TV, but had the chops, right? Like, they put the work in, they have the skills, with people that, and then if you're looking, especially if you skew slightly younger, you're like, well, who can pull this off? You're looking at child actors, right? People that were child actors that are now looking for more mature work, right? So we were looking at a lot of people that had done like Disney Channel stuff, Nickelodeon stuff, where you're like, oh shit, this person's done like 30 movies, but then you look at it and you're like, oh, it's them being a cute little kid. But now they're 17, 18, and they want to find that role. And we were like constantly back and forth on like, what's the best angle? Like this person that has all this professional experience, but is also coming from a different world. That, and there's also like with all the content, it was like a lot of these people with that experience, like their team is their parents. So then that was a hard thing of like, oh, well, I know the parents were all fine with this.
I'm hearing that some Disney Channel kids said no, and then you came to me. That's fine. That's totally
Brenda's
fine.
song was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh my God, no, she's so great in, what is it, Until Dawn?
Yep.
No, yeah,
Yep.
Until
Yeah,
Dawn.
yeah, yeah.
So fun.
I guess no, The Quarry.
The
from
Quarry,
Until
The
Dawn.
Quarry.
Right.
But
We
wait,
get attacked.
because Sam, I feel like it's funny because at the end of the day, most of the people you cast were theater people. And so like, that's interesting. Like, I think most of us had not done very much, but had roots in
a lot of
theater
that,
or drama school. And I think that
a lot of that happens inevitably. Like I remember
into
when
play.
we're casting Telling Lies as well. Like the process usually goes, here's the role, it goes out to a bunch of people's teams. Some of them just say no, because they're like, it's a video game.
We don't do that.
Yeah,
We don't do kids'
And
toys.
so then you get people going, okay, I have a slightly bigger vision, I can see that video games could be cool. And then at some point I get introduced to the talent, and I talk to them, and the bit where they realize there's 500 pages of script, we're shooting it in 10-minute one takes.
Yeah.
The ones that don't only, the ones that don't run away, but the ones that are like, this is cool,
Yeah,
are the
yeah,
ones that have that theatre in their blood.
Yeah.
A lot of like Hollywood actors that I speak to, they're like, I love theatre, but I can't uproot my family for 6 months to go do a Broadway thing, right? Like that's a big commitment. But this lets me do that thing of having a bit more presence, of having the amount of work that you're having to physically do.
Yeah.
And there's like this, the scenes are running on. You have to be present in the scene because you're not going to be cut into. There's lots of that, like having to know what was happening off screen when I stepped in.
Yeah.
Like it's very.
It was very much like theater. I think it truly was like a perfect mix of both because it's like you when we were going for 10 minutes, I mean that's just like being on stage and you're live and you're doing a play and then you do it 3 times and then the first AD says moving on and then I go, can we please do one more? And then she says, let me talk to Sam, and then she basically like turns around and waits 5 seconds and then goes, he says no, and then we moved on.
That's incredible.
No shade to her, she was trying to make our days.
But like you're saying,
Trying to do the job right.
like being spoiled by doing this. So not to be self-aggrandizing, but like I remember that was a big thing. Like when I was on with Blessing, there was some people shouting out Carrie Bichet in the chat. Phenomenal, right? Incredible in telling lies. And I remember like initially speaking to her and pitching her, and because I'd written the whole script for Telling Lies, and I said to the casting directors, I'm like, I would love a Carrie Bichet type. Like what she did in *Halt and Catch Fire*, like we could get someone to do that.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why don't we speak to Carrie Bichet? I was like,
There's no way this is a video game.
but anyway, she came on board, but like she must be so used to having people pitch a movie. Like she's in Argo, right? She plays the wife of a character in Argo. So she probably has like a page of lines. She's in a lot of scenes, but it's not a meaty role. We come along with Telling Lies and it's like, oh,
Here you go.
you're the wife of this cop character. So
Yeah.
she's like, oh, okay. There you go. And it's like, no, actually, you have 200 pages that is just you. Like, you have a movie's worth of scenes that is just you doing your thing. And the camera is on you. There's no cut, like, on you 24/7 for all these scenes. So, like, actually, like, you're doing so much more work in that than you would in, like, seasons
For
of
sure.
a popular
Yeah,
TV
yeah,
shows.
yeah.
So it is, for the right kind of actor, it is like, oh, this is challenging, but it's a fun thing.
It's really exciting, yeah.
So I have a question for you then. So now, obviously, we already talked about Dave. You're doing that. And I'm so sorry, I forgot. What was the movie you did, the real life cam girl one?
Oh yeah, that's an independent pilot that I wrote and produced and starred in that came out. Thank you. That came out at a Stairable Festival in April. That one's just that's something I'm trying to get made as a series. So we shall see.
So when you're doing other projects now and you need, or your people, I'm sure you have people. You're
So many
you're this
people,
huge
Greg. You don't even
actor.
know.
But like, do they cut up Immortality to show people?
Oh yeah, they
Yeah?
do.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
funny. Like I have, because actors have reels and things.
Yeah, yeah,
How much
yeah.
work have you done, Manon? You're like, oh, I've shot 3.
I'm sure, that's my thing. Is it like it kind of?
Yeah.
It's like it's awesome, but it also kind of sucks. It's like I did 3 movies in a game, but they're all one thing.
IMDb says it's 3 movies.
All right, perfect. That's all that matters
That's all that
then.
matters. No, but it's funny because people I think are at first are like, oh, she did a big thing. Yeah, this was great. She did this big thing. Oh, but it was a video game. But then the second people see footage, they're like, wait a minute.
What is a video game these days?
Yeah, and look at it. It looks gorgeous.
Oh,
like
100%.
every shot. And it was such an amazing opportunity to get to try to showcase, like to play all these different characters. So I think it has definitely, even if Hollywood people at first are a little like reticent or they're like, I don't know,
Yeah.
then they see some of the footage and they're like, oh, this is cool, like this, So, I don't know, and the strikes are over, so I'm just, we'll see.
Yeah. And then what about you? When are you leaving these games behind? You're just gonna make movies?
Don't ask them that.
People have asked and offered.
Yeah.
And I always say I love the video games, man. Like,
Yeah.
The two mediums
cool
are
thing.
melding anyway.
I'm
you know
with
what I
you, don't
mean?
get me wrong, I'm not trying to-
In
I'm
2
just-
years, I feel like what you're
that's
doing.
the bit that annoys me is I have tried
never
at
mind.
points. no, but I have, like that's the thing I would want to do, right? Is what that intersection looks like.
Yeah.
And there have been attempts.
You are that
You're
point, though.
doing
You
it
are.
already.
You're the bleeding edge of it.
Yeah.
People always want to bring up Kojima, but it's like, well, and I love Hideo. I'm not taking a
Yeah.
shot, but like this is so much. I think this is doing something completely different.
Yeah.
This is your like nook, your genre, your thing. You own this.
Yeah, and for me, it's like if these things are converging and we're here cutting it from this angle because we have the game engines and an audience that's willing to pay $20 for whatever this is,
Yeah.
it's
PS5
much
right
harder
now.
to pitch that on the other side. But that's the thing that we've had conversations about coming at it from the other side, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh, could we inject this virus into a Netflix, or could we put it somewhere? And some of those conversations have gone, and then but it's so hard because that world is so risk averse,
For sure.
and they don't get it, right?
No, they
And,
don't.
I had a meeting with some people, and I think at the time we were deving Immortality, so I was explaining it to them, and the guy goes, "I don't get it. What are the two choices?" And like in his head, that kind of Bandersnatch format of two choice was everything.
That's what it
Yeah.
was.
Oh, this actress. This is another one where like Ty, you end up loving. Well, I mean, the character who's playing Carl Goodman is supposed to be the lovable
Oh yeah.
guy who is lovable but has this moral worldview which is very brittle. Like that was a holdover from like Telling Lies. When I did a lot of research in Telling Lies into FBI agents, and they have this almost adolescent concept of good and evil, and that they are these knights that are saving the world from all the bad stuff. And because it's so simple and it's so embedded in their like adolescence, it's brittle. It's easy to fuck it up, right? And yeah, Carl Goodman is that. He's like the detective that thinks you can solve crimes and arrest the bad guy, and then he falls in love with the criminal, and he's like, oh, complicated now.
This is a
And
lot tougher
at the
than I
end of
thought
it,
would be.
like here's a funny. I think I've told this story before. The funny story. Like this is a '70s movie, so the ending of it should be ambiguous and depressing and weird, right? It's still a '70s movie, right?
Totally like every 70s movie.
This isn't a '70s movie, but it's almost a '70s movie. Is the end of Cruising with Al Pacino? You don't know who the serial killer was. Is Al Pacino gay or not? What the hell is going on? Has Al Pacino murdered people? Is he not? What's going on? Why has he brought his S&M gear back to his girlfriend? And it just finishes not answering any of those questions with a shot of Al Pacino just looking in a mirror. and as an audience, you're like, I'm supposed to, from this, answer all these questions, right? It's so ambiguous. So for Minsky, we recruit Alan Scott. Alan Scott wrote Don't Look Now, probably one of my top 5 movies of all time, with Nick Rogue, a bunch of other Nick Rogue movies. He was involved in Queen's Gambit, proper like old school, like he was writing these movies in the 70s. We were talking to him about like, what were the cool clubs like in New York in the 70s? It's like, oh, the time that Pakula took me, whatever.
Yeah.
He's that guy. So, and we're hiring him, and we're speaking to like Barry Gifford and people, because we're like, we want to go to the source. Like, let's get the person that actually wrote one of our 70s movies we're talking about to write this, right? So we get Alan Scott on board to write Minsky. We kind of talk him through the ideas we have generally, but we're like, you run with it. You do your thing. So he sends us the first draft of the script. He's like, I'm really pleased with how this ends. Get to the ending. The end of, I don't know if you've seen this version, the end of his version of Minsky, it happens in the art gallery like we have it. It's like a flash forward, like epilogue thing. And the detective's there, Carl's there, and, it's Alan Goodman, right? Detective Goodman is there, and Franny's there. Franny turns around, having put on this art show and emerged as a talent in her own right, looks at him, and he says, you're going to have to sell some paintings if we're going to pay for the baby. And she goes,
my
yes.
God.
And the camera pans down, and she's pregnant with his baby, and it's a happy ending. And I was like,
No.
what? Like, this is what I wanted. 70s movie. This is how it went. Like this? This isn't ambiguous. This is
Why
happy.
did he? Well, that's because Alan Scott is a genius, as are Amelia
Gray.
Amelia Gray and Barry Gifford.
Good stuff.
You know, but what was his thought process behind that? I didn't know that.
I don't think we dug into it too much.
You were just like, change this.
I'll fix it. I don't want it. I'll fix this.
It can't end like this.
Yeah. Goodman for a good time.
The problem with you guys is I could talk to you all day, but we are running out of time here.
Oh no.
But it's been so much fun.
This is so great. Thanks for showcasing the game and for all the love and.
Oh my God, please. I'm so excited to go get the Platinum on PlayStation.
Yes,
Of course, out today, PlayStation 5, ladies and gentlemen. Lost in Cult doing the amazing collection that I have to get. I have to see every one of these scripts all the way through.
It's a beautiful thing. Because we
It's
were like,
gorgeous.
they were like, hey, do you want to do a script book? And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be kind of fun. Like I got a couple of those like A24 ones.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a fun
of course,
thing. Like
of
if you
course.
love a movie, you go get script book. And I was like, but you do know our script's this big.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we can figure that out. And they're like, oh, we've got some other ideas. And they're like, hey, how about some posters? And how about we have some Polaroids in there? And how about you see the script notes in the scripts? And how about you have some ticket stubs as if these movies had come out? And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is
You're like, where?
really good. It's like, it's cool because they have the same like attention to detail and passion that we do. So it's cool. It's not just the like, yeah, we'll knock out some merch. It's-
No,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
they go
looks
deep.
gorgeous. Yeah, no.
And
it's
they've got like this.
and the vinyl and the cassette and
And they've got
the
like Chris
CD
writing
stuff,
all this
yeah.
kind of behind the scenes essays on it about making it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, who's been so great as well.
Really fun.
All of the.
And I saw some people call it out in the chat, but if you weren't looking, you're looking later. Remember No Clip, great documentary.
Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta get on there and talk about that as well. Yeah, because
Yeah.
No Clip did an incredible.
That was so fun. We shot that like a year ago, and that's on their channel, No Clips
Really,
channel.
really cool because all the actors in LA got shot in a beautiful studio, looking fantastic. Me on a webcam. I'm the Goblin director who directs these beautiful people.
No, that space was cool though, because it kind of looked like the Two of Everything sets. I feel like we didn't see a lot of that, but like, the gaudy, like kind of like, you walk in and you're like, these people are in the mob.
That was
Like,
the
what?
Because we
Like,
did the
what?
location scouting that was for the Pop Stars Mansion. It was supposed to be like a classy, like expensive, classy place.
Yeah.
But then the stuff that was essentially our version of the Epsteins, it was like, you look at Trump, you look at Epstein, like these people live in these disgusting Baroque gold palaces, so gaudy and gross. So that was my brief, was like, we need to find spaces that gross. And then you're looking around in LA,
And you're saying
and
that
the
to
owners
people.
are there, and our art director, Steph, is there like, I love your place. This is so good. I love what you've done with it.
perfect.
It's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
then you think the odor's gone away, and I'm like, Steph, this is so great. This place is so disgusting. And then you're like, oh shit, they're like in earshot. But and then,
If you have that much money for your $300,000 garage, I don't give a shit what some indie
but
video
some of
game
these-
director
Exactly.
thinks about
But
They're
it.
not going to
these
see it
places,
anyway.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
I think the place we shot had 3 pools in the backyard with a bridge and a tunnel.
There were
And
sculptures.
sculptures that were like spitting the water out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything was marble and gold and...
It looked very, very strange.
Hey, you got a trophy. You're on
know.
your way.
I'm killing
Greg's
it.
on his
You're
way.
doing
I'm
it.
getting all, and it's because I'm getting all.
Oh, here we go. These were the hardest films to shoot.
Really?
Well, because they were like
15
they were
minutes.
so long, hundreds of pages.
You can't fuck up a line because then
stuff.
you have to go back.
Because as well, like to give it's so hard doing these things because you're giving the impression that it's just a read through, so it can be casual. But you have that spidey sense where if someone flubs a line, which they would totally do in a real life read, it is weird in the context of this, right? So suddenly, like, this is also the one where I had the hardest time explaining the nudity to everyone.
Oh, yeah.
We're not rewinding on this.
Yeah.
No.
We are not rewinding on this. Anything that happens in this room, I am not rewinding on.
No, not
But
this
I
one.
was like, this is all about the surrealism of this bunch of people sat in a room reading sex scenes in a read-through, right? And so in their heads, they're imagining this, but it's the opposite because they're in this room and it's all. And you have Marissa at this point. This is baby Marissa.
This is
in
baby,
this room. This
baby,
is like
baby
this is like
Marissa.
Olivia Hussey and Romeo and Juliet. This is that kind of vibe. And you have like Sophia, who's playing the innocent virgin Antonia, but the actress is this worldly wise Italian actress that has been it, and so she's lording it over Marissa that she's fine with all the sex. She's sidling up to the director because she's playing with his games. Like he has that Hitchcockian thing of just being a dick, and pushing everyone's buttons, and she's like with that, and you have all that building up, and then cut to inside Marissa's head, she's fucking them all, and like it's like she's like, I know what sex is, guys. I've been doing the sex, like. But then it is one where like it was early on in the shoot, and it was like, hey everyone, we're going to
This
shoot
was
the
like
version
day
where like,
one.
everyone is now naked.
This
Like,
was day 1 or 2. I just want to say that.
It was pretty early. So it was like, okay, this is what this is going to be like. We would have to do this weird thing. But also, like, that was also one where it's clear, like, it's not titillating. It's so weird,
It's
right? Like, this is not.
bizarre.
There was a show I used to watch as a kid called Dream On, which was that early HBO.
Yeah,
the guys that
I
wrote
remember
Friends,
Dream On.
People that wrote Friends, and that had the boob pointer.
Yeah.
And
Dream
as a
On
teenage
was,
boy, I knew that there would always be one scene
Yep.
where there would be boobs in Dream On.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember there was one summer a friend went away, and my job was to record Dream On for him, knowing that he was just going to be fun.
Yeah.
But you know, so you're like, okay, filming that, you know what that's for. But here it was like, this isn't like sexy. This is weird and slightly nightmarish.
Yeah.
And you know.
Off-putting. Yeah.
Here we go. This was a weird one. We have to wrap up, right? Yeah.
I was just winding us down.
This was like such a weird one because this was another one where you get most of the people together for a party. We did film this near the end of Ambrosia.
We did, yeah.
And you're filming a rap party, but we're only 1/3 done for you. So it had, but some of these people are going away, right? Like some of these people are just here for this
characters
movie.
are coming
So
back.
it had like a little bit of a vibe of the rap party, but also COVID was going on. So it was like getting this many people together in the room was like a real logistical challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, this was.
And then Doug, our DP, comes to me. I think it's during the read-through. No, maybe it was during the shoot, and he's like, "I've seen this before, haven't you?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "So when we wrapped Telling Lies, we got this beautiful speech from Logan, who is the consummate leading man, incredibly committed, and like he gets, if I'm the leading man, I have to make everyone else happy.
Sure.
That's part of my job."
QB number 1, yeah.
And when we had this rap, we were rapping and everything, and he gave this little speech where he told everyone how great everyone was and how much he loved everyone. The speech that Robert Jones gives him is very similar. Very similar.
You're just taking notes while he's like giving the
Very
real speech?
similar to that vibe. Oh man, I think Robert Jones, so I promised Miles that I think Robert is one of the only characters that has a happy ending.
Aww.
Right? Because a lot of people end up dead. A lot of people.
Spoiler alert!
But he's like, what happens? And so, I almost don't want to say this because it's one of those could have beens that kills me.
I want to hear
But
it,
Seated.
for logistical reasons, we couldn't have the character of Sophia in this scene. And like they both asked me, they were because their relationship across the course of this filming has ups and downs. And they were like, what happens after this movie? Right? Like,
Yeah.
And Robert Jones was somewhat modeled on the Christopher Jones, a real life actor who was in Ryan's Daughter. He's terribly miscast as an American actor in Ryan's Daughter, playing a British guy. He's a gorgeous looking guy. And then the rest of his life is really sad. And he just missed the Manson murders, but then he had some bad relationships and stuff. But I was like, no, I think Robert Jones and Sophia do stay together and have a happy ever after. And so we wanted in that scene, we were like, oh, could we have him blow a kiss? So that we just set up the, but she couldn't be there that day, so she couldn't be in the audience. I did see one person online that killed me, where they were like, no, I don't think they stay together because she's not in the scene. So they had a falling out.
Yeah.
God damn it, no, that isn't what's
That's
going
what.
on.
You just missed your chance, but now when you do director's cut Immortality, you go
Yeah.
back, you
Bring 'em
digitally
all back.
impose her there. You know what I mean?
Adam.
You totally could, wouldn't you? That's what Lucas would do.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having us,
This
man,
was
and for
great.
continuing to.
Oh, I'm always behind you guys, both of you. You know that for anything.
Especially
I
on
can ever-
PlayStation 5.
Exactly, on PlayStation 5. Now, when there's a platinum trophy. Yeah, Immortality out on PlayStation 5 today. Lost and Cult doing an amazing collection. Everybody should go pre-order right now and get a part of that. You have 2 games out right now to wishlist on Steam.
Yeah, hit that up, give us some numbers.
Project C, Project D.
Yeah.
You were on Games Daily, so go give us the view for that. Don't try to rewind into the bad stuff.
No, no, I wasn't.
Okay.
I was like,
I don't trust Twitch and
I
YouTube.
developed a Christopher Tennant obsession with, like, you watch Tenet, right?
Yeah, of course.
Well, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Watch Tenet. I saw a critique of that movie, and I actually love that movie, of like, this is just Christopher Nolan going, look how cool it is to rewind shit.
Yeah.
And I developed an obsession of like, isn't it cool to rewind stuff?
But don't do it on this scene, Sam.
I'm doing it
because
at the
this
right
is where
speed. It'll be good. They're not talking about sex. But like seeing
Wait for the haptic
cigarettes
rumble.
in reverse.
Sure.
So cool. Like I could literally. I was like, is this game going to work? I don't know. Is this structurally going to work?
And then you saw the smoke
And then I'm
come
like,
in
if
it, you're
it's
like,
just
this is it.
10 hours, if I get to be like, whoa,
Yeah.
look how cool it looks.
Then
And
you'll be
hair,
happy.
Like there's a couple of moves, just seeing people's hair, just sway around and go backwards. It's just great. Fun stuff.
hearing people talk backwards.
Never,
kind of
never-ending source of fantasticness.
That's the whole like
Backwards
satanic
talking.
thing, like if you play, playing songs
Yeah,
backwards. Yeah, that's fun.
But no, you're still streaming Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mondays and Wednesdays now, 10 a.m. PT on Twitch. I'm learning to game, but now I kind of know
I was
how
gonna
to
say,
game.
you've been doing it a while now. Yeah.
I used to call myself a baby gamer, and now I feel like I'm a toddler gamer.
Okay, good.
So I'm working my way
What
up.
are you playing right now, or what's the next?
Right now, I'm playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps,
Oh,
which
great
is really
game.
cute and fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, just finished.
Is that
Chance of
that's a
Sonar.
Metroidvania, that game, right?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Is that your first Metroidvania?
No, I've played Celeste. I've played the first Ori. I've played, what else have I played? Other Metroidvanias. No, those are the only
you
3.
played
Hollow
Metroid?
Knight I tried, and it's a
hard.
little hard.
Yeah.
I was going to say you should play Super Metroid, but I don't know if you're ready for the controls.
Just wait for the next Metroid. Wait
Okay.
for Metroid Prime.
When?
Probably Switch 2.
I don't want Metroid Prime 4, Greg. I want just a new. I don't like the lore and the sequelizing.
Yeah.
That's not what I want. I want Samus on a planet, sad and lonely,
Okay.
exploring stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if they drop the number and give you some
At this point,
Metroid
yeah.
Prime colon or something like that.
I know people are saying they're going to remaster 2 and 3, and I'm like, 1 was good enough. Like that was
Yeah,
a beautiful
unexpected.
remaster.
Yeah.
But like, I don't need like 2 and 3 were fantastic games, but they weren't quite Metroid Prime. I want to see when I was playing Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I was like, imagine if this team, or just this ethos or this tech, got applied to Metroid. Just
Yeah.
imagine that level of freedom.
Yeah.
Combined with just the lonely sadness.
Yeah.
Like that, all those games, like when I was working on Legacy of Kain, I would make people play Soul Reaver, and I'd be like, it's just a game about being lonely and sad. Like that's the vibe. That's so much fun. And then people would be like, oh, but now it has to be empowering, and you have to have collectibles and pickups and stuff.
You're like,
And
but I want to make people sad and cry.
I was like, I just want someone to be wandering in an empty place, feeling
Greece?
sad.
Have you played Greece? Greece is fun for that.
No, but yeah,
Beautiful
vibes,
game.
vibes
Beautiful,
based in-
yeah.
Yeah, sad.
Meditation on Greece.
That's like my favorite vibe. My kid, the kid that is in Telling Lies is based on one of my real life kids, and they really didn't like the movie of Nimona because it changed too much. Have you seen Nimona? It's like so Nimona is this very cool graphic novel by N.D. Stevenson. I think it started out as like a webcomic.
Okay.
And then they Netflix and Annapurna did adaptation of it, beautifully cast, has a bunch of cool people in it. A really good job, but they radically reappraised
What it was.
because at the time it was like this beautiful, weird, complicated bit of like queer comics, and now from a modern vantage point, N.D. Stevenson was like, I wanted like it had like bad things happening and sadness, and they were like, I don't want this to be another tragic queer thing. Like, can we reinterpret this for 2024 to actually, if this is going to be like a kids movie, nominally a kids movie or a teens movie, like they tweet. So my kid didn't like that because I remember they read Nimona when they were tiny.
I was gonna say, how much is this kid? It's too happy. I need it sad.
So they came to me after they finished Nimona, and this was so beautiful. They came to me and they said, until I read this book, I didn't know stories could have sad endings. And it was the first time. But then we discussed it, and we were like, but there is like this hint. I'm like, so it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
And then they were like, actually, Dad, the best stories have bittersweet endings.
Oh,
Like, yeah, that's my vibe. Like, if I could
that's
play a game
really sweet.
where I feel sad, but it's not just like
It's not just sad.
just sadness,
Yeah,
if there
yeah,
is
yeah.
that acknowledgement, that's the vibe I like.
I love that.
Good vibe. I like that too for all the weird little indies I play and tell everybody else to play. So that's good.
Play
Okay.
indie games.
Manon, obviously Twitch, but like any other projects you want to promote?
Not yet.
Okay.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter.
That's good enough.
That's where you'll hear about it.
Yeah. Well, all right then. Immortality PlayStation 5, a great game. Everybody knows it. Thank you both so much for coming through today.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to just do a quick standby screen, then come back, and we got to unlock Solid Snake in Fortnite. So don't go anywhere. We got to get Snake, okay? But until next time, in case you're leaving, it's been our pleasure to serve you.